So last time we worked on the design. Okay, so instead of just a very simple single user search tool, we added admin part also. So you have the authentication, you have the users part here. You can make orders. Okay, and you also can allow the vendors to configure their menu to check the status of the order, and the admin menu to be able to configure the users and the vendors. So when you go to this kind of a scale, the you will see that it's going to take a lot longer, okay, to start kind of a generate code using Gen AI. Okay, let's start to give it a shot. Okay, last time we were getting this UI design in HTML, and because this allows us to easily and quickly see the overall view, okay, and make adjustment. And we change the theme, we simplify a lot of things. Let's assume that we're okay with this design. Okay, now if you remember, what I did last time was that I put that into a folder, okay, called this launch tool. Let's see if we can open that folder. Let me go here. All right, so that's called launch tool. Okay. So that's folder, this one just contains all the designs, okay, we have. All right. So what I want to do now is that I'll start to move on to generate the code. Okay. So now let's create the Flutter code for this app based on the design. Okay. I want to create a new folder in the current folder to host the Flutter project files. Please use the Flutter installation at. In my case, I have two versions of Flutter. I do want to make sure that they use the right one. So I was trying to add this little requirements, but you shouldn't actually need this. Okay. I want to use this one. Okay. All right. Let's give it a shot. Oh, actually, we forgot to. Oh, yeah, I didn't mention. Okay, for this app based on the design, from above, um, and then please make sure we implement all the UI and visual components screens first without without implementing backend, so that we can provide and feedback and test the UI UX. Please make sure we follow the design 100% and provide a very polished version. Okay, so this problem here, I'm just trying to, since we have the design there, okay, they can try to follow that and implement all the screens. And to make things easier, we shouldn't actually do too much about the backend yet. Okay, start from the front end. Okay, and then once those are ready, we can start to integrate all the backend stuff. Okay, let's see what they can do. All right. So as usual, I will just stick with Codex. It's probably a little bit faster. And then, um, as I mentioned, you can use the ChatGPT account if you have a product version. All right, so they break down this test into three tasks. The first one is to create a project folder. All right, and then they start to ask you if you want to run this command. I said yes. And you will start to see they ask you a lot of these things in the process, just mostly for the security reasons. They want to make sure they're not messing up something wrong with the system. All right, and then after that, they're going to implement that shared theme component, all the screens and roles for everything. And then we're going to validate all the project structures. All right. As you're generating the code, you will see that there's a new folder called a launch Flutter. Okay, already all the files being built. They create all the structure using the Flutter command. Everything is done with command line. All right, so this is going to take a little bit of time since we have a lot of screens, and then we can see how many screens they are going to build. Everything is under the library. Right now it's just the main. I think they will start to add a lot more. So this time, as you work with Codex, you don't have to open IDE. Okay, you can still open it and see all the project, but that's not required. No, no, it should. It just. I think it just need to create a lot more files. Yeah, and we're only asking for the UI, but since there are many screens, okay, let's see. I think. Um, yeah. So, every time processing for 6, 7, 8 minutes, it's pretty common. Okay, once you work on the bigger projects. For the previous web application we did, I think it took 6.5 minutes to get the first version. Yeah. All right, now it's moving on. Oh, they finished all the UIs? Did they? Oh, okay, so it looks like they put that into this whole one file. You can see there's a giant file, 64 kilobytes. Okay. I don't know if that's a good practice, but we can let them to break it down. Okay, so all right, so they're actually doing a lot of the tests and analysis using the built-in Flutter analysis tool just to check some very basic errors. That's always helpful. And they clean up the format, everything. But eventually, we have to run this app ourselves and then verify from the project owner point of view. All right, so now it's finished. So one thing always be careful here is that for all of these AI tools, once you're done with this big task, they often give you a summary. Okay, so make sure that you read the summary because they help you to understand what they have done. But more importantly, they allows you to see if there's anything that you have to take actions at the next steps. Sometimes very important things for you to configure. Okay, so they implement all the UIs, no backend, all the different screens. They have so many screens implemented. Okay, and they polish everything. Everything is in the main.dart. I don't like that kind of structure, but we can ask them to refactor that, and they run all the analysis, there's no issue, and then we can run that. Okay, so if you want to run it, they already told you what to do for running that, but um, in this case, we should be able to just run it from Codex. That Codex run it for us. Okay, now run this app locally with an Android emulator. Okay, so let's see if this one works. The other day I was testing this one. There's something wrong with triggering the emulator, but if this one doesn't work, I will switch a different one. All right, so they run for other devices. And you can see there's two devices that I created before, and then they're gonna launch this device. There was some kind of issues as they triggering this device from Codex. If this doesn't work, I will go back to the old way to starting that. It's supposed to use the emulator from the Quick Studio. Mm, yeah, Android Studio is we actually started create those ones, but you are supposed to be able to create the emulator just from a command line. You can also do that. But in this case, I have two which are already installed from the Android Studio, so they recognize. Since they use this thing called Flutter devices, they can check all the available emulators. All right, looks like it's up and running. Okay, guys, so this is very good. Okay, as you can see, we trigger the whole execution just also from Codex. Okay, you don't have to go to the Android Studio to start emulator everything. You don't have to know how to run the command. Just tell them to run it. Okay, so result next step. Okay, so let's actually verify this one very quick. Okay, so you can see this one is only a UI, and there's splash screen. Okay, so that's pretty much what we designed. Okay, wait, how do you go? Oh, you can swipe go back. There's a row selection. Oh yeah, we got it. We gotta get it better. Go back and log in. pretty good. Sign up and forgot a password screen. All right, and then you got a home screen. All right, little bit of bug here. I think the scrolling has some kind of bugs. Okay, and you got a search screen and the full details. Checkouts. All right. Overall, it looks really good. Okay. Very close. However, what we want is that instead of first of all, we you can see they put everything together. Okay, for the prototype demo, we want everything to be connected with a kind of flow to simulate flow. Okay, so that's probably better. Okay, so instead of showing all the screens, as a collection, I want to you know implement the actual app with the real user workflow um, with the correct screen navigations without having to implement the backend. Yeah, definitely suggest not to touch the backend yet because this type of app has too many screens. That's going to take forever. So we got to get the flow working first so that we can pass the app in real users mode. Okay. Please also separate the screens and code into different files so that it's easier to manage and uh, edit later on. Okay, so the prompt doesn't need to be perfect, but just as long as you show all the ideas, and they can definitely capture that. All right, and then once again, they divide that kind of requirement into 3 tasks. So they create a Flutter library folder structure with the theme, components, models, feature screen navigation. Okay, and then you implement real navigation flows with static mock UI, and they run and check. That's exactly what we're asking. Okay, so this probably would take some time. All right, so very quickly, they got an app folder, they got a core folder, and they got a feature folder. Okay, because there's no way you can put everything into one file. Okay, so admin side, you have screens, authorizations, and right now it's empty, and then you're gonna move everything to here. Okay, we're gonna open this just to check all the files being generated. Right, so they hot load and everything. Okay, let's check it out. Okay, so they start from a splash screen, and there's a continue button. Um, okay, so we gotta go here, and first you have to choose your role. Okay, yeah, pretty nice. Go continue, and then here you're gonna do the input. All right, once you log in, that's the home screen. Okay, now they don't have that issue anymore. But we can't really click on these things. That's a little problem. But we'll come back. Okay, maybe they haven't implemented the editing part. And then if we go here, that's a detail screen. Okay, and you can favorite that one, and then you can make an order. If you do order, pricing, everything, your car, send order. All right, so that's your order. Okay, that's the status. Right. And then you can search. You can check out your orders. Oh, that's where you find orders. Okay, and then you can track the order. That's the one you're looking at, and then go back and the profile. All right, so that's how you configure your payment setting. Yeah, that's yeah, pretty good, the flow. Okay, so just make sure all the flows are kind of expected. And then you should also be able to go back to the other flow. Well, I kind of so we have to go back here. All right, try this again. Try the vendor flow login. All right, vendor flow, you got orders, you can see the queue and everything. And that accept or not is ready. All right. And for the menu, you can always add item, status, account. Okay. We don't have a add item screen. Maybe that's something we should add, right? All right, and then if you go to admin, okay, so some of the catalog, this is the vendors, orders, and analysis. That catalog is a little bit weird. Where does this come from? Okay, that's the total. That's the total like stats. Okay. Okay. So for example, if we see something's missing, like add a vendor, right? So we don't have that screen. So I can immediately give feedback. Please also provide a add vendor screen. Okay, so they will know exactly where to insert it. All right, looks like they hard to change that. Um, add vendor. So let's say rerun the app. Make sure we can see all the changes. All right, let's restart it. So we go here, choose admin, and go to vendor, add vendor. Yeah, that's how you add vendors. Okay, so create vendor, change things. All right. All right. So definitely this is step that you have to provide more feedback. Okay. Make sure every stage actually works. Like this continue button is a little bit weird. Okay, so I noticed there is a continue button on the splash screen. Please remove that and use the get started button to move on to the next screen. Very minor comments. Okay. Anything you see not right, just ask you the AI to change it. Another issue we saw here is, oh, by the way, is there a sign up? Yeah, they do have a sign up. Okay. There's something wrong with this UI here. Okay. And then that part we also need to specify. Okay. In the home screen of a student, okay, the top section on the budget input has a small UI error. Let's see what it says. It says overflowed by 22 pixels, right? Overflowed by 22 pixels, right? Overflowed by 22 pixels. Please fix it. All right, so just describe any kind of things, including the bugs and errors. Okay. All right, so it looks like they made a change, but it's not showing. But let's rerun the app. Okay, rerun the app. All right, so the splash screen, that button is gone. and continue, login, and error still there. The overflow error is still there in the whole screen. Looks like this is still there. Okay, let's rerun just to be safe. I feel the error is still there. Yep. Oh, no, this time it's gone. Okay, so that is the error is gone. Okay, so that looks pretty good. The scrolling is not very smooth, actually. Um, yeah, this one, there's something wrong. Okay, so too much. Okay, so for both home screen and the search screen, the scrolling isn't perfect. The users can scroll a lot uh, from the top, and there will create too much empty space at the top or bottom. Again, I don't even know this description makes sense, but you know, they can very often they can capture what we're talking about. So all the things that we're doing right now is trying to verify the UI, make sure everything's good. Okay, so you don't want to make dramatic changes later on after you start into the database. All right, so they made a change, and yeah, I think a little bit better. Yeah, now you can't scroll too much. A little bit better. Okay, so we can test it in the real devices in the future. Okay, so this is good. Just double check the users part here and all of this, the orders, track status, and profile settings. Okay, so at least the student part is pretty much good. And then we double check the vendor. Vendor, you got all the status, all the order status, that's fine. Menu, we need to have add item. Okay, so for vendor row, please add a screen to add item. Okay. That's it. Stats account. And then we should also be able to edit the add item. Okay, let's see what they provide here first. Also, please allow vendors to edit the item. So we'll rerun everything together after adding the screen. Okay, so everything's done. Let's rerun the app. Okay, this time we're going to check the vendors, menu, add item. That's how you add it. Okay, and then we click on the item and you can edit it, save the change. All right. Finally, let's just verify the enemy one more time. The enemy, I feel a little bit weird about this screen here, the catalog. They only need to manage the vendors, I think. Okay, so, and others. Okay, so let me simplify it. For admins, they only need to manage the vendors. The vendors you can add, you can also edit it, right? So please allow editing the vendors. This order, well, they can see all the orders, maybe that we can just leave it here. The admin here. The catalog. The catalog a little bit interesting. Um, they're editing the item. So they don't need to edit the items in the catalog. It's great. Okay, looks good. And do a final run. Okay, this time we're just checking the admins. All right, so this read only, we don't touch it, and go to vendors, and you can edit it, and you can add. Assume the orders, you're gonna check all the orders. So perfect for the enemy rules. Okay, so once we're good here, okay, I think we can call this UI version as a pretty complete. Okay, so